Welcome to the ID10T podcast number 1093. ID10T has an Instagram account. What a shocking revelation that in the age of social media, we have an Instagram account. Guess what it is? I know this is a mind blower. ID10T. That's crazy. It's not ID10T, that's crazy. It's just ID10T. So go follow us there. We post some stuff. It's not too much. We're not going to fill your feed with too much stuff. I think it's a comfortable amount of content that we're posting. So go there, sign up for the email list. This is just me promoting the podcast and getting uncomfortable because I'm not entirely comfortable with self-promotion, okay? And I'm trying to get better about it, all right? That's why I started posting piano videos on Instagram as well, my personal account. Not so much for self-promotion, but I just mean because I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm uncomfortable playing in front of people, so I'm trying to get better at it, and the only way to get better at it is to do it. So that is my long-winded way of saying I'm trying to get better at self-promoting stuff. So Instagram and email list and ID10T.com. Okay, I've talked about this way too much already. Let's talk about you now, okay? This is the Corkboard, ID10T Community Corkboard events at ID10T.com. Like Aaron, who writes, over the last few months, a pair of independent bookstore experience-loving friends of mine were talking about how much they miss that environment and wish it could continue to exist for their children. And then they stopped wishing and created a thing. With social distancing not going away anytime soon, and with independent bookstores becoming a thing of the past, my friend Lindsay, a middle grade teacher, and her husband Craig set out to create that same curated, connected community experience online for kids. And Booknix was born. Booknix is an interactive and online book club in a box for kids ages 8 to 14. Each month, the reader gets a box delivered with a book and materials for an activity that ties to the main character or theme of the book. During the month, the reader receives emails with questions to help them engage deeper with the book and videos on how to do the activity. During the last week of the month, there's a Zoom-based teacher-facilitated book club meeting with readers from all over the globe. You can find Booknix online at booknix.com. That's BOOKNICKS.com. Or Instagram and Facebook is at Booknix. What a lovely idea, especially now that, homeschooling is the way of the present. So this is another way to keep your kids occupied and to keep them engaged and interactive in a creative and educational way. Nice job. Thank you for sharing, Aaron. For everyone else, events at ID10T.com. This episode is Lamorne Morris, who you may have seen on The New Girl. He was just in this Vin Diesel movie Bloodshot. He's been in a ton of stuff. Lamorne has a wonderful career, and he is really great in everything that he's in. And, Lamorne and I met one other time. He was on At Midnight maybe 4 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago. And he was really funny, and he won. And he won the internet for a day. And then we didn't really talk. I don't think we talked again until this podcast. And sometimes when you're podcasting people you don't know, sometimes it can take a minute to sort of settle in or find, like a connection point or something. And honestly, Lamorne and I just right from the get-go, right from hello, I feel like we just super connected. And I really, 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 really loved chatting with him. So, Lamorne, if you're listening, thank you so much for your time. I adore your work. I'm a fan of your work, and I'm a fan of you as a person. So thank you for coming on. He has a new show on Hulu right now called Woke. It is streaming now on Hulu. As soon as you're done with this podcast, you can turn off your podcasting device and go watch it on Hulu. Or maybe it's the same device. You could just jump from the podcast app to the Hulu app, and it's all right there, because we're living in the future. All right, here's the ID10T podcast number 1093 with Lamorne Morris.
Initiating ID10T protocol.
of all, it's wonderful to see you.
You as well, man.
I don't know if it was it might have been like 4 years ago, but I remember you did At Midnight, and I think you were on with Carrot Top. Am I correct in remembering that?
I was on with Carrot Top, and I'm glad to say that I won.
Yes.
I won the internet, man.
You won the internet for 23 hours and 30 minutes.
Yes.
You get to have the internet. How have you been keeping occupied in these several months of... I mean, my wife and I keep calling it quarantine. We're technically not really quarantined, but we're assuming that we're under a self-quarantine.
Yeah, it's been strange, to be honest with you. When it first started, I was one of those... I felt like I was in an episode of, like Walking Dead. Like when people would come to my house, I'd look out the window and like, what the fuck is that? I'm trying to, like my sister came by one time. The moment she walked in, I made her walk upstairs and shower. I said, before you come into the rest of the main house, you got to go upstairs and shower, change your clothes. There's some pajamas laid out for you. Like I wasn't playing any games, and obviously that angst kind of wears down a little bit and you become a little bit more normal and you're a little bit more open towards, being lenient towards certain things. But mentally, man, it's been a roller coaster, to be honest with you. It's been like up and down, left and right. I know. And it really, it seems like the best way to sort of get through each day is just to get through each day. It's really difficult to sort of, I mean, for me anyway, it's difficult to think too far into the future. It's just this sort of cloudy, nebulous thing that I don't. Yeah. I hope it's okay. Yeah. I hope. I don't know. I mean, what are you doing to get through each day? I've been lucky enough to, like, now we're doing press more, and I've had certain obligations, work-wise, that would get me through each day because I had to, they would set up a set essentially in my house. Oh, wow. So I got, certain days went through that way. The gym, playing basketball, watching basketball, obviously for me, I'm a huge basketball fan, but lucky enough that it's happening now, because right now we'd be off season and you want to see a person go crazy. That's me during off season of basketball. So now I'm a little bit more calm. I'm actually in Austin, Texas right now, handling some stuff. And then, so I've just been here sitting in this Airbnb, occasionally going to do some press for the show, but most of the time it's sitting at home watching basketball. That's my thing. So that's kind of how I've been passing the time as much as I can. I've never been a big YouTube guy, but let me tell you something. Like, I have taken that deep dive. Like, I'm waiting on aliens now. Like, everything's a conspiracy theory. Like, I'm all over the place these days. Well, it is sort of hard. We had gotten for so long, and we take it for granted. We had just gotten into these patterns of like, this false sense of security and this sort of structured life of like, go to work, do this, go here, and we always just assume like, oh, the world is a stable, structured place. Mm-hmm. And then we realize, oh, it's not. And we're all very vulnerable and wow, now I'm just with myself and I don't have those structures, to run off. 100%. My mom used to always ask me, why do you always have to get up and go? Every time I would come home to Chicago, I'd visit her and I'd hang out with her for 2 days, but for the rest of the week, I'd be out with my friends and popping my head back in to check on her. And she's always like, you always have to be on the go. You're always on the go. You got to be more still. You have to be more calm. Let your friends come see you, maybe hang out at the house. Just relax. And I would always go, Mom, you're crazy. Shut up. I wouldn't say shut up to my mom. Yeah. Black mom would slap the shit out of you. But my mom would just go, all right, cool. Have fun. Do your thing. But then once the quarantine happened, my mom was like so adjusted already. Like, she's like, oh, everyone's got to stay at home. That's easy. Like, me, I'm itching, It's hard to get a grasp on, especially when you're young and you're ambitious and shit's happening and you're working and you're getting offers. Yep. And, it's like, oh, this is what I sought out to do. This is good. I don't need to sit still. Fuck sitting still. And then at a certain point you realize, oh, stillness is a skill set that you have to cultivate, because most of the time we're just running away from the millions of things that we're trying to process at all times.
Exactly. Your skin genuinely starts to itch, man. I'm learning how to cope with things now much better. I found, I've been in my house for about 2 years. I'm exploring parts of my house that I never explored before, man. Are you kidding? Dude, I have like a whole pomegranate tree in my backyard. I never knew.
See, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. We don't, we're always, it's so easy to look forward and backward, but it's so rare that we look at like what's in our immediate vicinity. Yeah. Because we sort of just take it for granted. We're either just, way in the future or way in the past. Mm-hmm. And I really do believe that cultivating the idea of being able to be present and look around and go, oh, okay, there's that tree and that makes pomegranates. Mm-hmm. And if I think about that, nature kind of melts my mind. Like, I feel like those are the things that we're not raised to really learn how to do.
We're not. We're definitely not. I watch my brother sometimes. My brother has like this beautiful mind. My brother, he reads everything. He knows about everything. And, I'll go on the back and I'll go, man, I was like, did you see that we have this lemon? We have a lemon tree. There's like lemons on the ground. And he goes, oh, those are actually Myers lemons. Those are derived from here, and here, or that's not that's some other weird lemon type or something. Like, we have all these random trees in our backyard, and he'll identify with all of them. And if sometimes like I'll pick something early, he'll get pissed off. It's like, not time yet. Not time.
Man. That's so interesting, because I've been watching farming videos just for fun and going, I fucking get it now. I get it. Yeah. Like, you're on a farm. Everything you need is right there. You grow the stuff. Like the animals, they poop and it helps to grow the stuff. And then you get milk. And I go,
and you get shrooms.
Yeah. It seems like some type of wizardry, but it's like, no, it's just nature. It's so funny now that we're coming to a point where we're like, I think nature's magic, you guys.
Yeah. It's like we're so used to grabbing stuff out of a bag or out of a refrigerator from a grocery store that we forget, man. We forget that there is beauty in how things are made, and not just sexually. There's like something about a cow dropping a deuce on the ground that's just so fascinating, I know. I still, because here's the thing about, because cows, if cows take a shit in the grass, they're giving back to nature. But if if some random dude goes and takes a shit in the middle of the street, like, he's crazy.
You can't just say I'm helping nature.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work as well.
Yeah. We can see your butthole, man. It's exposed.
That's the dividing line. If you can see the butthole, it's not okay.
Yeah,
you can't see the butthole, and it's tasteful, and it's for nature. But if you see the butthole, it's not okay. I mean, it's it really does feel like, is this an opportunity to sort of explore like what nature is and what it means to try to create a sustainable environment, and to try to understand, and to try to, like you said about exploring all those parts of your house, exploring all those parts of your mind and yourself that you never really stopped to think about too much before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much that I need to learn in just life. The older I get, the more I regret not taking school so seriously, not taking, just my leisure time more serious, and now I find myself trying, at least. I go, oh, I wonder what books feel like. I wonder, what's this subject matter everyone's talking about? I find myself diving more and more. Obviously, a sign of the times is that a lot of people are becoming more engaged in, the world around each other, or the world around us. But I find myself trying to learn more. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we have the things that we're good at, and in a perfect world, I can just act for a living, watch basketball, goof off, hang out with my friends and family, get entertained by whatever source of entertainment, and then repeat and then travel and do stuff like that. But we find ourselves becoming activists and more engaged in things that we never thought we'd be, that would pique our attention. Obviously I'm like this work in progress, but all I do now is talk to people about their beliefs, and because I'm trying to learn, you know what I mean?
Right.
And had we not been under this strange quarantine, if you call it that, or this pandemic, I probably wouldn't have been thinking that way,
You would have been too distracted because there's just too many, and it's hard because it feels like it's such a thin line between, you want to explore, you want to pursue the career that you set out to do. You want to take opportunities when you get them. And how do you do that without falling into that trap of being consumed by it,
Right.
Because
exactly.
so much of our business too, there are so many like really tantalizing parts of it that play to the ego that you may not realize right away.
Yeah.
And then, you can, I think the trick is just to not get caught up in it. But if you're in the cycle, how do you know?
Right. How do you know? It's just as a part of your regular life. You find yourself being, numb to the other things and that the world has to offer. You don't really see things from other people's perspectives because you're in this bubble, if you will, of people who are in the same field of work. I find myself complaining. This is a real story. I found myself complaining about I scratched the back of my bumper on my car, but it's a really, really nice car. And I was complaining about, it's going to cost me this to get it fixed. But it's like, don't be an asshole, bro. Like you, first of all, you have a ridiculous car. Like, let's just start there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but to me, I was like, but that's a problem for me, right? But you're telling this to a person who may not have a car at all.
Well, it's perspective. It's being able to, and I think this is hopefully what we will gain from this very surreal experience that we're all living through is perspective about what's important, about how, and then also fighting the urge to, because especially if you're alone all the time, how to not make everything about you and still just because when you're stuck with yourself all the time, it's like you said, you can go down these rabbit holes and then you're just in your own thing. And we really are social creatures. Like we need to commune with other humans. And, like you said, like get to the place where you're like, well, what do you believe? Like, that's such a great, but it's just, again, it's just those things that in the olden times of 6 months ago, we're so caught up in our own
100%.
hamster wheel that we just didn't notice.
It's a strange reset that Mother Nature has decided to force upon us. It's like, all right, everybody, settle down for a second. Let's get back to the way things may need to be, I guess, at least for a little while, so we can get our brains in order and, like you said, gain some perspective on the real world.
Right. Are you going to be in Austin for a while, or are you heading back anytime soon?
Probably I'll be here for another month, maybe. I want to say about a month. Where are you based?
I'm in LA.
Oh, don't you just love it?
I do actually. I do. It's. I've lived here forever. I mean, I've been here since the the 1900s. I think my family. And I've been out here a really long time, and it's such a big, amazing city because you really can kind of have any kind of an experience that you want, and in Los Angeles. I think most places are like that to a degree, but LA is just so expansive, and there's just so many people here that it really is kind of, in a way, it can be a lot of different things if you want it to be.
Oh, absolutely. You can ski, you can surf, you can hike, go in your backyard, and this is all in the same day. You know what I mean? You can do all this in the same day. This is not a lot of places like it. Although, fun fact, I don't ski, I don't surf. So who gives a damn? I can live in Detroit. I don't care.
There gets to be a certain point in your life where you realize like occasionally I'll go, hey, maybe I haven't skied since I was a teenager. Maybe I'll go skiing. And I'll go, I think that has already sailed because at the age I'm at, I'm still young enough that I don't feel old, but I'm old enough that I will get injured easily.
Yes, exactly.
And not heal up super quickly. So, from that kind of an adventure.
Dude, there are parts of my body that are hurting that I didn't even know existed right now. Like, there is something going on in my scapula. Is that what it's called? Somewhere around. I don't know. There's a pain there, and I'm like, what? Like, how'd that happen?
It can just be from sitting too long. I sat wrong. What the fuck? How do you? What? Yeah, now I can't turn my head because I was leaned like this for too long.
Dude, for the longest, about a month or two, I couldn't turn my neck like this. Even still to this day, it's a little bit sore. And I have great pillows, and so I'm not sure if it's the pillow. It's genuinely my age, man. It's my age.
But what's interesting is that without that discomfort, you would have not appreciated when you could turn your head again without being in pain. Do you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't have been able to go. I find the times that I injure myself or I tweak something, and then for like a week, like, oh, fuck, God, that's just... And then it goes away. I go, oh, my God, I've never appreciated just being able to sit up more.
Yeah, that's true. Or have a swift reaction to things. Ooh, what? Where? Like the ability to just look to the right because an accident happened. Or look to the left. Look, there's a guy shitting on the sidewalk again. Like, I want to see it. Like,
he's a cow. It's very weird.
Yeah.
I wish I couldn't turn my head because I can see his butthole.
Yeah, that's his butthole again.
That's not... You don't want to see the butthole. Not that you would want to see someone pooping, but seeing the butthole just heightens the experience in a bad way.
Yeah, that's a terrible. You don't want to see that. Like you don't want to see if I'm getting a package delivered to my house, like I just have the package there when I open the door. I don't need to see the person go inside of the shipping facility, grab the box, put it in the truck, have the truck drive it up. That's what the butthole is. It's all that
too much process.
Yeah, it's being. I don't need that. Just drop the box off.
I don't need to see the Amazon Prime butthole pooping out the package.
Yes. Just leave it at the door.
I'm curious to know what your experience was with how long did New Girl run? 5, 6 seasons, 7 seasons?
7
seasons.
Yeah.
So that is already like rarefied television air. You got to be on the show for 7 seasons, which is not common, particularly now. Like it's not that common anymore. But getting on a show must have been like getting on a sitcom. To me, was always like, well, that's the ultimate. You get on a sitcom, you have a regular schedule, you're set, it's fun, but you must have had expectations going into that show. So was it after a season or two that you sort of felt like, did you notice it anymore? Or did you have to keep reminding yourself like, hey, this does not happen very often? What was that experience mentally for you throughout that 7 years?
It was a roller coaster, dude. I mean, the first season, when you first get the call that you're on the show, it's a dream come true. So you don't know what to do. To this day, I haven't felt that excitement about something like the initial excitement. You know what I mean? So that first moment was, holy crap, my whole life is about to change. I have this skill and this ability to do something that the world is going to see finally. Like I've been telling people I'm really good at this thing, like, and I only get to do it at Second City or UCB, but I want to do it on TV now, and finally when someone approves of you to be able to do that, you have this burst of joy. But then right afterwards, there's this fear. Like, oh, what if I fuck this up? Like, now the world will see. Like, I'm a fraud. Am I a scam artist? I hopefully I'm good. And in that first season, there wasn't a lot of development for my characters, and my character was a bit of a replacement character. So, and it was a whole different character in its entirety. So, they hadn't written for this character. They hadn't really developed this character yet. So it was a bunch of me just trying to piece it together on the fly. And this is my first time being on television, in that capacity. So that fear was weighing on me. I thought I was going to be fired every episode. I just thought, they're going to write me off. And Winston gets hit by a bus. Like, this is the day Winston, gets, he just randomly moves to Ohio somewhere, and and that was hard for me. But the writers and the showrunner, Liz Merriweather, and my fellow actors, they definitely encouraged me and kept saying, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And it did. And then the normalcy of it all started to kick in, where you forget sometimes that you're still lucky to be here, and this isn't a job that you should take lightly, because someone genuinely would kill you for this job. There are people out there who would slice my throat to get this job, and so I have to stop and remind myself of that occasionally, just to keep the excitement going as well, because this is what we do, what we get to do for a living. We're very privileged to do it, but it wasn't easy. I mean, I'm sure you've had your roadblocks and your ups and downs the same way everybody else does. And as long as you keep that in the back of your mind, that the journey itself wasn't like what people think it is. I have a lot of friends that are like, well, I take that back. Not my friends, because my friends know the grind. My friends definitely pulled me out of a lot of fires, for sure. But there are people that you meet that are like, "Oh, he must be living a life, man. This is the easiest job in the world. You just show up and just do this and go home." I'm like, it kind of, but not really. There are certain days where it's very cushy. To be honest with you, it's a very privileged thing. But there are days, man, where you're shooting for 17 hours in rigorous situations that aren't to be compared to actual real hardcore jobs. But at the same time, I remember shooting something where I didn't sleep for 4 straight days. And I just remember being delirious on set. And I remember in the middle of a scene talking and like slowly nodding off until I blacked out and hit my head on the table. I was just like, "Oh, what the hell's going on?" They were like, you're exhausted, you're dehydrated, you're not taking care of yourself. We get into these things and they become difficult for us. So that's part of the grind a little bit that people don't necessarily know about. They don't know about the times you slept in your car. They don't know about the times that you had to borrow money from a million different people and, rob Peter to pay Paul, like just to eat. The times that I'm walking down Lankershim Boulevard in North Hollywood, people think I'm just kind of roaming and just taking a nice gentle stroll, but in fact I'm looking for change on the ground so I can eat food that day. You know what I mean? And that's the hard part about the business, is that we're aiming for something that there is no right or wrong way to do, and we're shooting our shot. It's not like I wanted to get a job at the bank where it's like, okay, get a finance degree, okay, great, fill out this application, great, sit down with this guy or this woman and they say, okay, great, you got the job. It's so much more that goes into it, because most of us don't make it. We are the lucky 1% that manage to turn our passions into a career that we can be proud of. So reminding myself every day when I'm on set on New Girl, I used to always talk about, man, they weren't writing for me. And I had to put it in perspective. It's like, hey man, you're on a damn television show. Well, like, you'll be fine. So here we are.
Yeah, but the thing that you said about, and this is anything you could have ever expected, is getting a dream job and then immediately feeling fear of like, oh my God. And then sort of realizing, oh, I think I need to, like, navigating your own self is such a big part of, particularly this business, generally everything, but particularly this business, because there's no real, it's so difficult to know if you're doing a good job. It's not linear in that way. There aren't, you kind of just have to be okay. The people that tend to do the best tend to be more in your mom's line of thinking of like, well, you're fine, just calm down, whatever, you'll be fine. You're doing this today, maybe tomorrow you're doing something else. And I feel like that's kind of the gold mental standard, is just being able to take things as they come and not getting so overprotective or like self-destructive or, oh my God, I'm going to fuck this up. I mean, but it's understandable why that would happen, because you work so hard to get the job, to get where you are. Of course you don't want to lose it.
Right.
Of course.
Right. Of course, man. That's like, it's like precious cargo. You at the end of the day, it's just a thing, but it's so precious to you.
Yeah,
it is. And not a lot of people can understand it until they're in it, So for me, man, it's just a day by day situation, just a day by day thing. We're always trying to get other jobs too. We're always trying to, I want to do everything. I want to do what you do. I want to learn how to speak to people in such a way that's eloquent and that I can keep a conversation going. I want to host things. I want to have like those. When I did your show, bro, I was like fun. I was like,
I'm so glad to hear that.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was like,
happy.
This is fun, dude. I was like, yeah, I want let's do another one. Like, let's do another show. Let's do another episode. That's like the perfect way to spend time. Obviously you're making money for yourself, but at the same time you're goofing off with friends and having fun, and you're getting silly, and you're using your mind to do cool things that will entertain people. That's
so nice,
dude. That's, man, I want to do that. Like I want to do it all. And
now's a good time to be hosting unscripted stuff, because it feels like it's a little bit easier to get hosty stuff going again, more than scripted stuff, because the scripted stuff, they're still kind of figuring out protocols, but hosty stuff, they can one studio, they can distance people. It feels a little bit easier.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
You were great on the show. And honestly, that's such a high compliment that you had fun on it, because that's what I'd always hoped the show would be, is like, I just feel like, when people are having fun and they're comfortable, that's when they're free to get into the flow state and just have really be as creative as possible. So,
you just lose yourself in the process a bit. Yeah, man. So great. I think everyone listening will I'm sure you've just agreed to produce the show that I'm probably going to do next.
Of course I will. I absolutely will.
Yeah, you have the concept. I don't have it yet, but you have the concept. You just told me you had it somewhere. So thanks, man.
I'll tell you what, all it takes, and the answer is, absolutely. We could definitely talk about shows, about kicking ideas around, whatever you want. But it really is just about, it's also so easy when you go, I want to do a thing, but I don't know what it is. And so you just kind of file it away.
Yeah.
But it's shocking how little we credit ourselves for being able to figure shit out when we need to. Like if you just make those decisions, you start coming up with answers and you start kicking ideas around. And before you know it, you're like, oh my God, I think this is actually a thing. I think we have a thing. We might have a thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I even in the scripted space sometimes, oh my gosh, the amount of ideas that I have not cultivated it's massive. It's massive. I could be Dick Wolf. I feel like I can be Dick Wolf right now. All the ideas that I have. But you're right. It's that next step. How do we cultivate it? How do we grow it? That I'm learning how to do. So I'm in the middle of developing quite a few things right now, which, just like you said, it took these weird leaps where it's like, oh, I just have to now speak to this person about it, or I just now have to spend a few days writing out this synopsis. How do I come to this conclusion? Okay, great, we got that. Now I want to develop the treatment. Okay, great. Those are things that I never, just based off the fact that I'm an actor, I just was like, oh, someone will give me lines to say, and then I'll say those lines and make up some fun stuff, and that's it. But now, in the creative process, there's a lot more steps that are involved, and it's fun to now take that leap into the producer side of things.
Yeah, I mean, it also gives you a whole appreciation for it. It is astonishing that anything ever gets made, to be honest. Like when you're on the producer side and you see how many fail points there can be for a show, and it's like, and even you can get a show that you think I've had shows that were picked up, and then all of a sudden, like, an executive leaves, and then a new executive comes in, and then swipes everything off the table that was in production. They want to bring in all their own stuff. You're like, holy shit! You realize how little control you really have over all of it. And you just have to like, you really just have to embrace the process and just know, okay, all right, well, there's something better around the corner, I guess. Is there a type of show that you want to host? Do you want to host like a chat show or a game show or a comedy panel show? Like what have you thought about doing?
Comedy panel stuff is really fun to me as well, because for me, being a humorous individual, I find it fun to speak with other humorous individuals.
Right.
Because all they do is set you up and all you do is set them up, and it's just a bunch of people setting each other up. Those are always fun to me. I love game shows. I love game shows because, I'd done some hosting in the past, and that's kind of how I got my start a little bit back on BET.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more so, talk to the camera while stuff is happening somewhere else. I would toss to videos or toss to different things like that. But I would talk about video games and gadgets and tech and stuff like that. But, watching competition happen in front of you, watching people do weird stuff, like it's always fun. You know what I mean? It's, I don't look at it as work. Obviously there's business to be done. You know what I mean? You don't want to screw up your lines or say the wrong thing, especially if it's a live show. So there's a little pressure there, but I feel like when you get some cue cards, or you got a teleprompter, I think it's fun, man. I especially, or at least from the other side too, as being a contestant.
Right.
Being a contestant, watching the host, like watching what you guys do, it seems so it's fascinating to me. It's like you got somebody talking to you in your ear. You're having to handle business over here. You have to still be alive, and you have to still run the show. That's cool. Like I look at that and I go, damn, that's really.
But you
cool.
could learn that no problem. It's sort of like it's just like driving. Like if you tried to explain driving to someone, especially I had to learn to drive. When I was 15 and a half, I went to driving school or whatever, and they made you learn on a manual transmission. So like you need to know how to do this. You need to know how to, pull out of a parallel sparking spot on an incline with a clutch, And at first it's like, oh, wait, what? This? Oh, and I got to do that. But then after a while, it's like, it's just a muscle memory,
Yeah.
So you very quickly would learn how to, listen with one ear to a producer telling you something, listen to what's happening on stage with your other ear, see what's coming, see where you are, see what's coming up and where you need to go. And then it really is just like driving. It's just like a series of things in place. You'd have it no problem,
Well, that's awesome, man. We're going to go out to NBC, you and I, we're going to pitch some ideas.
I love it. I would love that, because I honestly, there's such a void of panel shows in the States, and they're deceptively hard to do. I think a lot of times people go, oh, you just put a bunch of funny people, and it's like, well,
yeah,
you need the right structure and the right combination of people who play well off each other, and so there is a little bit of a little bit of a trick to it. But in general, there should be more comedy panel. It's like, especially now, like it'd be so much easier to produce comedy panel than almost anything else. And now's the
so much information out there. There's so much news. There's so many things to talk about. Here I am having a conversation about other things that I'm used to talking about, and the conversations go on and on and on and on, and I'm not used to that. But there's a wealth of things happening in our world that we can pull from. One, it's very scary, but also I'm very happy to see it. I'm very happy to see that people are engaged in just talking to each other more. You know what I mean? Like even stuff like this back and forth between you and I haven't seen you since the show, since we did, I think it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you since then. But I'm a huge fan of yours, and I think it's great that we get to just have this conversation, and we're talking about a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what's great about a podcast. I don't know if you ever thought about doing a podcast.
I always think about it. I don't even know where to start. So I just go.
Well, I had the same issue before I started mine, because I had a handful of friends. Now I guess this one is 10 and a half years old, but even back then, the Mark Maron, Doug Benson, like other guys had been doing them already. Jimmy Pardo, other comedians I knew that had done them already. And so I kind of had the same thing. I was like, well, what's the concept? I don't know what it is. And then at a certain point you just realize like, oh, it's you. Like you're the thing that makes it different because you're a unique set of experiences and molecules. And that's what's valuable. And once you start down the path, it will reveal, like you'll start to figure out what it is, but it's sort of like stand-up. You just don't know it, or even sketch or improv. Your background, you just don't know until you just do it. You know, like if you talk about an improv scene, then it's not improv anymore. And you're gonna fuck it up. But if you just do it, your brain, you just have to trust that your brain's going to figure it out when you're in the situation, and you will.
Absolutely. Yeah. So have you heard of Rick Glassman? Do you know Rick Glassman? You ever done his podcast ever? Take Your Shoes Off?
No.
Oh my gosh. It's so watching him do his podcast has given me inspiration because he's one of the goofiest, silliest people you've ever met in your entire life. And I watched the evolution of his podcast because I've been on it maybe 3 times at this point. But it's in his living room. And he's so true to who he is that I can see his podcast and I know his thing because we're friends and he's very anal about putting shoes on or taking your shoes off when you walk into his apartment. And he has all these nice rugs because, you know, his dad owns like this rug company in Ohio. And you walk in, you see all these like glorious ass rugs on the floor. And he's like, do you mind taking your shoes off? And at first you think he's doing a bit, but he's not. Like he's really serious. And then what follows is a long bit that you're not quite sure if it's real or not. And you're always on your toes. So that when you know Rick Glassman, you then say, oh, that's what his podcast would be. Right. Immediately you can tell. For me, I'm like, man, I just feel like I'm boring as fuck, dude. Like I just feel like.
But you may not have the correct perspective on yourself in that way because we're automatically our own worst critic. Mm-hmm. And so you must have been in many situations where you tell a story that you was like, it's just my life. It's not that. And then someone goes, oh, that's really funny. You should write that. What? No, that's not funny. You know, and we keep looking to other things to be the thing that elevates. Right. It's like, no, but you're the thing that elevates. Yeah. You are you're what's interesting. It's not some other thing or some other character or some other idea. Right. And I just feel like were you to start, one of the reasons that I've been able to keep doing the podcast for 10 and a half years and still love doing it is that I just love talking to people and I love learning from people and I love discovering things about myself while discovering things about other people.
Right. Weirdest thing you've discovered about someone on your podcast?
The weirdest thing?
Yeah, or that maybe an aspect of life where you were like, what the fuck? I had no idea.
Well, I guess it's just, the consistency of, there are certain people that I've had on before that I didn't really know much about that I was totally blown away by how incredible they ended up being. Like, there was this actor named Michael Ironside who's been in a bunch of, he was in Starship Troopers, he was in Total Recall, he usually plays a bad guy, and ended up being just one of the most contemplative thinker, and it's not like, it's not that I went into it thinking like he's not going to be that, but I just wasn't expecting, and so I love when people have like a really interesting point of view. And the things that I generally gravitate toward are that kind of like what your mom said, like my ears perked up when your mom talked about stillness and calm, because the people that tend to fare best, are the ones that can kind of get their own brain out of the way and be in the moment and don't take all of the external stuff. Like they don't find their value in that. They somehow have figured out like they have, what they call this internal locus of value. Right. And they're just peaceful and calm with whatever happens. And so it's seeing that kind of consistency across, from people that I really respect and other people who have surprised me in a fabulous way. And so I guess, that's why it's like, I don't have like a specific answer of like, oh my God, this, but it's just a handful of people that have almost every podcast. There's something, at least a few things that I think I need to remember that or I need to write that down because that's a valuable bit of information. And it will blow you away how many things are consistent in terms of like what happiness is, what stillness can be, but just hearing different people's versions of it is very affirming, because you go, there must be something to that, because I've heard a similar idea of that quite a lot.
That makes a lot of sense. It makes a ton of sense. That stillness is still something I'm trying to work on. You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you. Again, this pandemic has definitely helped me in that aspect for sure, though. So we'll see, man. Hopefully I don't shrivel up like an old person in this house.
Well, it's hard because as performers, like, you're automatically not still, you know?
Right.
You have a lot of energy because you have a lot of things you want to express, and you have a lot of things that you want to do. So to be still is almost to fight the thing that drives you.
Yeah.
I often wonder, you know, I've had that fear before of like, oh, if I this is not going to make any sense, but if I just feel okay, if I allow myself to be still, will I not want to accomplish anything anymore? And it's like, well, that's kind of a paradox, though, because isn't the goal to be happy and okay with yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, it is, but I want to do that stuff. Yeah, but if you were happy, would it matter if you could do that stuff?
Yeah.
It was fun, but but if you didn't have
that's true.
you know, so it's this kind of weird thing.
I always equate my happiness with money sometimes. Like, I really like, not always, sometimes. I'll say to myself, oh man, you know, it'd be really fun to like, I want to throw my birthday party on a yacht. Like, I just want to like sail around. I've never done that before. Like, I want to, but then I go, man, that's really expensive. And I go, okay, I could pay for that, but then, Jesus, that's a lot of money. But if I had $1 billion, like,
but you know what's funny is that, and I know this sounds crazy because there's, you know, there's so much economic disparity in the world, and but the people that have $1 billion, a lot of them are going, but if I had two, you know, and so there is this really interesting idea called hedonic adaptation, and the idea behind it is that you very quickly develop a resistance to whatever your baseline is. So you say to yourself, like, I wish I had, you know, $10,000, and then you get $10,000, you immediately become very used to that $10,000, and then you want 20, and then you want 30, or your brain gets all fucked up with the fear and the, you know. So it's this trap, this never-ending hamster wheel of more, because you're chasing an external thing to try to give yourself the internal value that you should have. Right. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm just saying, like, that the goal is to, like, well, how can you be okay? Like, once you have your basic needs met, how can you be okay not falling into that trap of chasing something you think is going to fix you when it's probably not? It's just going to make you want something else.
Right. It's very strange how that works, man. It's called hedonic what? Hedonic
adaptation.
Adaptation?
What I've seen on it, what I've read about it is called hedonic adaptation. I don't know if that's the official name, but that's the term that I've seen. And hamster wheel is another sort of reference point where you just, you know.
It makes total sense. It makes absolute and total sense. I remember my goals getting into this business, and every time you attain one of those goals, maybe if I had a vacation home, that'd be cool.
Right.
You know, maybe if I did this, that'd be cool. And then you find, like I said before, I bought my house 2 years ago. This is the second house that I bought for myself. Sold the last one. When I got this house, I was like, oh man, it's a really cool house. I can put a basketball court in the backyard. I can do these things. And I did. And then I found myself never at home. I found myself leaving all the time. I found myself going, like, not even, like, it's stupid, not knowing that I had a damn pomegranate tree in the backyard.
Right.
And it's like, you know, I'd be perfectly fine in a studio apartment.
Right.
You know, because I was there before, and actually I felt I in some instances I felt more creative and more hungry that way. You know, now you get to this level of comfort where you're content, but not really, because you always want that little bit extra.
That's it, man. That's exactly it. And I think the goal is to, you know, I think there's some people who say, like, well, you should just not have anything, like you should be okay with, and it's like, well, listen, I think it's fine to have things. It's fine to have them because you want them and enjoy them, not because you need them,
Right.
Not because you have some sort of a codependent relationship with the material world that it's like, I need this or I don't have any value, it's like,
right.
You have value because you're you. And, like that's enough. And it's okay to have stuff. It's okay if you want a nice house, it's okay to have a nice house as long as you're not defined by it. And as long as
Right.
like, like what you said, like, what, this is great. But if I were back where I was, 15 years ago or whatever in a studio apartment, that would be great too, because I'm here and I personally, I carry the value within me. It's not out there in the world.
Exactly. I always think about the amount of fun that I had when I was struggling. We were such a wild group of young people. When I first moved to LA, I was 25 and I was, I had roommates in an apartment, and it was, the carefree ability to just kind of just exist and not have real responsibilities. We had responsibilities, but they were more so like we didn't have shit, so we couldn't lose shit, so we
Right.
When it was like it's time to go hang out, let's go hang out. I really enjoyed those moments when we would go out to grab a drink, because we were all so broke that we would have just enough to go out and get a couple of drinks, and it was the funnest night ever. We would go to Big Wang's down in North Hollywood.
Oh my God. I remember. I know the place you're talking.
Yeah. We go to Big Wang's and 25-cent wing night was like, oh my gosh. It was the greatest thing of all time. And I miss that excitement that I had about doing it, because now it's just so commonplace to just, we're going to go have a couple drinks. It's fine. And it's whatever. And then you're going to go home and get back to the daily grind. But when you're that age and you got nothing to lose, you really thrive in those moments. I think something so basic as making ramen noodles for 10 people at your apartment. That's something we used to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think what you're talking about, and by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, is that because we have these times in our lives where we don't have things or we don't have access to things, and so what we engage in are experiences and community. We have like communal experiences, and the older I get, the more I realize like the experiences are really the cool parts of life, not the things. Things
right, exactly.
They're pretty neutral, like they're inert, but the experiences, like you said, going to 25-cent wing night, going to this place in North Hollywood, being with people, not having a care in the world, like all of that, like that's the experience is impactful. That's what you carry with you. If someone just hands you a thing, you're okay, I have a thing, and then 5 seconds later you're like, I want a new thing, But the experiences really, they just permeate your, outer layer, and they just kind of get into your soul. And that, I don't know, those are the things that I think are worth focusing on more than, what kind of thing can I get?
And I think that's, I'm not sure if that's a taught or I'm not sure what kind of behavior that is. I don't know if that's, something you just grow up with. I'm not sure if that's nature, but when I was a kid, we, in our neighborhoods, it was like the things were the things to obtain. That was the goal, is to get these things, because when you grow up poor, you grow up broke, you don't have access to them, so you strive to get access to those things. Right. But at the same time, when you remember your youth, you remember how much fun you had without them. And you can't replicate that. You can try, and I think a lot of people spend most of their lives chasing that feeling that they had when they were children. But I think what if people started to realize more often that that feeling you had when you were kids was just about community, and it was just about an experience, and like you can't tell a poor kid he's poor, because that's all he knows. He's just like, this is, am I? I don't know. Because we went to the park today, played some ball, like had an ice cream cone. Like, shit was fun. What else could you possibly want? And then you see like a Lamborghini drive down the street. You go, whoa, what is that?
And then you go, wow, the guy who owns that must be the happiest guy in the world. Cut to the guy inside crying because he's unfulfilled and he's done like a mountain of coke and he's fucking, everyone hates him. And, you know, I mean,
oh my God.
You know, it's just, but when you're a kid, you see the shiny things and you think, oh, status, you know, like, but I do think that, you know, the one thing about sort of chasing that feeling, it's like chasing that feeling from youth, the paths are chasing them through things. So maybe it's, you know, maybe it's a Lamborghini, or maybe it's like, you know, like or something that I've done, which is acquire a lot of, you know, old toys from, you know, when you were younger that are now like valuable, you know, it's like, this was never opened, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's really about newness, right? Mm-hmm. It's when you're young, and I always think of it like, you ever notice how people always say that the best SNL cast was the one that they watched growing up?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because comedy was new to you, and it was like, it was broadening your horizons, and it was fun, you know, like, yeah, when you saw Star Wars as a kid, no other Star Wars movie is ever going to replicate that because you were a kid and your mind, like it just, the newness of it, you know, and so.
Would you kill me if I said I never saw Star Wars?
No, not at all. Listen, I'm not that kind of a nerd snob. I'm really not. Okay. Because I sort of feel like everyone has their own path. Maybe if you saw it now, it'd be interesting. Actually, maybe that's your podcast, is just like stuff you didn't see when you were younger, and then you go, okay, I didn't understand. Why in the first one did this happen, but in the second one, have you seen any of the Star Wars movies? Never, not one. It's kind of a badge of honor at this point if you haven't seen one yet. It almost feels like a shame to break the streak. 100%. It's like I have no tattoos either, and I know a lot, and like all my friends are covered in tats. I don't have any either. Look at us, man. Look at us. You know why? Because now at my age, I sort of feel like I'd get one and go, oh, God damn it. Why did I do, you know? Exactly. You know, at least if you get one when you're young, you go, nah, I was young. And, you know, even if you hate it, you go, I was young. I don't know. Yeah, I thought I needed a 4-leaf clover there. I don't know. But now that I'm older, I just feel like I'm too aware of my choices, and I just feel like I would, after a week, I'd go, I just want to scrape this off. 100%. I mean, I know I have these ideas of what I want, and I've always, you know, every chapter in my life, I go, I'm going to do that. You know, sometimes like I've lost a couple of close friends, and I go, I'm going to put their name on my arm, and I never do it. I want to do this, and I never do it. I have this new show coming out, Woke, and I play this cartoonist. This guy. Hulu, yeah, you know, and I play this guy Keith Knight, and I said, you know what? If this show gets picked up, I'm gonna have him draw like some sort of funny strip, and I'm gonna put that strip on my ribs. Like I'm gonna do that, and I said I was gonna do that. Thought about doing it, chickened out, and now here I am again saying, if we get a second season, that means the first season had to have been successful. Then I'm going to get that tattoo. But I'm going to get it on my ribs, and I'm rarely shirtless, so no one will really see it, except for my many lovers. So then that'll be the time that I get this tattoo. Yeah, I mean, it is. I've heard that when people get a tattoo, that it's the kind of thing where you go, oh, now I need another one, and now I need another one, and now I need another one. I can't see that happening with me, but I don't know. Well, once we sell our first show together, then you have to get the tattoo. Then you're going to get the tattoo. Then I'll get the tattoo of a guy taking a shit on the sidewalk. Are we going to see his butthole? That's the important question. Might be too much. That might be too much for TV. You just reminded me of the most uncomfortable tattoo I've ever seen. Well, actually, it's not uncomfortable. It's on the internet, of course. Like everything is on the internet. Actually, when I think about it, it is the best example of a guy taking lemons and turning them into lemonade. He had a weird navel. It was just like this weird. It was just puckered in a weird way. So he had a cat tattooed on his entire chest, and his navel was the cat's butthole, and the cat was just looking back at the viewer, knowing like, that's my butthole. And that was an example of when I thought it was actually okay. Oh my God, that's pretty fun. That's pretty good. I saw on the opposite side of things, but kind of similar.
I saw a person getting their butthole tattooed. This is during one of my weird World Star Hip Hop deep dives. Whenever you go on World Star Hip Hop, you find some strange shit, man. And someone was getting their
Someone get a
butthole
butthole tattoo. Is it like it was on the sphincter ring, or was it just like around?
on the sphincter ring.
That feels like there's a risk of infection, maybe, because it's
100%.
to the dump.
Because that's like the absorbent part of your, like, it's when, when you're like putting tampons with vodka on them up your butthole. You've done that. That's what everyone's done.
I have two in right now. What do you?
Yeah, of course.
It's so funny. I think, just pitching for the podcast, one episode is you watching Star Wars, another one is delving into the science and biology of how to get a butthole tattoo.
Tattoo, yes.
Really?
So I've done my research.
But I genuinely, I think, a podcast could be fun for you because it could just be a self-discovery journey for you as well. Like it could just be something that allows you to find out more about you in the process.
Yeah, that's, what I'm gonna next time you speak to me, this podcast will already be in development.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen, man. It's going to happen.
I have to say, by the way, my wife and I watched Bloodshot the other night, and we really enjoyed it. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
And I think the thing that I loved, and I paused the movie to say to my wife, and this isn't a huge spoiler of the movie, there's this like fun like accent ping pong that's happening because Toby Kibble, who's British, has an Australian accent. Guy Pearce is British, and he's playing an American accent. You are American, and you're doing a British accent. And
Yes.
there's no explanation. It's just like, everyone's just... But, of course, Vin Diesel's Vin Diesel.
Yeah, of course. He's just
so was that accidental, or what was the...
Kind of. So, what's interesting is that none of these characters had to be any of these ways. These are all choices.
But it was fun. By the way, it totally worked for your character, by the way. It made perfect sense to me.
Oh man, thank you, dude. I just remember getting the audition for it and them saying, the casting director just said, "Try an accent." There was the script was written as Russian.
Yep.
He was this Russian coder / hacker, and I just knew that Black Russians don't exist. If they do, please DM me. I want to meet you. But I just thought, okay, let me try something else. So I played with Australian a little bit, and so then I went to British. But I made this audition tape that whenever I hate self-taping. I hate sitting in front of a white wall and then doing the scene. It just doesn't bring out all the things that I would do on set. So I shoot my auditions like the actual scene. So it takes me a couple days. I'll get a crew, like a small crew, like someone to operate the camera and maybe some lights or something like that. And then we'll rock out that way. We'll actually do the scene with other actors, etc. in it.
God damn it, that's a good idea. It never fucking occurred to me to do that.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Genius idea.
Yeah. That's what I do.
A genius idea. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
it's all good.
It's melting at like, oh yeah, if you have the resources to do that, why would you choose to do it in front of a plane?
Exactly. And I feel like most actors would benefit from it because our creativity goes way past this chair and this white wall. And there's so many things you want to do that maybe don't come across in front of a white wall.
Right.
And the accent, for example, was something that I had played around with just with friends, goofing off. I'd never been asked to do one on camera before. So it worked in that instance because I got to move around while I was playing with the accent to distract a little bit from maybe the points in my accent that were bad.
Right.
So, but it's like, if the part of my accent slipped in this moment, it doesn't matter because I have a laser thing in my hand. You know what I mean? I'm distracting you from this weird accent that I'm doing. And so that to me is the reason why I did it that way. So, but funny fact, I sent the audition tape in and 30 minutes later I booked it, which was unheard of. And I remember getting to South Africa and sitting with the director and he goes, He goes, my accent's really bad for this South African accent, just FYI. He's
Sure.
like, hey, bro, like, what made you do that? The British accent, I loved it. And I was like, I thought you wanted me to do it. He's like, I thought this was a note coming from you. He's like, no, you could have did your regular American accent. I like your voice. You could have done it that way. Like, I was just like, oh my
You know,
God.
though, it's great because it worked the way it worked. And honestly, I had a moment where I said to Lydia, I go, I didn't know Lamorne was British. Like, I honestly thought that was actually your. And I had to think back. And I go, he was on at midnight, but I don't remember him doing a British accent. Was he doing an American accent the entire time for New Girl? And then I looked it up. No, it was Chicago. What the fuck? Like, it was.
Oh yeah,
Good accent.
because a lot of times we don't get a chance to play. Brits. Brits always play, American, and they're so good at it. I mean, they've been doing it forever. But it's fun to get a chance to play something other than yourself.
Well, the British accents are tough because obviously the UK is a lot older than the United States. In the United States, we have a handful of regional.
Yeah.
There's and if you really get into the South, like I'm from Tennessee. There's a difference between Mississippi and Texas and Georgia, and
Yep.
in general we have like New York, Midwest, Chicago, Boston, West Coast, and just kind of flat American. But in the UK, which is a much smaller landmass, the accents are so fucking specific over short, so it's just it's tougher for us to do them convincingly to Brits because Brits are like, man, you're not doing it, mate. Like they just don't.
Yes.
You could be doing.
I'm not quite sure where you're from, brother. I'm like, I don't know either, man. I'm sorry.
I
haven't been to this weird town you're from. I haven't been there. Small town, 17 people. Sorry.
When does so your show Woke is September 9th, right? Is that the date?
September 9th on Hulu. Yeah, all episodes streaming. So
all episodes streaming at once. Oh my God, that's right. We're in the time now where it's like, here's the series.
Yep. Go ahead, have fun, binge it, watch it. Tell me what you think.
When did you shoot it?
We shot the pilot last year, and then we shot the season in January and February.
Okay.
Yep, Vancouver. Good old snowy, rainy Vancouver.
Oh yeah. The cast is great. Blake Anderson's in it, and Sashir is in it too. Who's great.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we have this comedian T. Murph is in it as well. He's from Chicago, a up and coming guy. It's one of his first acting roles, and he's going to blow you away in this show. Funny story about those really quick. We right across the street from where we were staying in Vancouver, there was a strip club. And one day everyone's like, oh, we're going to go to this strip club. And I didn't realize that T. Murph really wanted to go, but he wanted to go because he didn't tell us that there was a comedy club at the top floor.
Oh.
And he's like, oh, we're going for the comedy. That's what we're going for. And I remember going, but there's like a strip club downstairs. Like, don't you just want to see what's going on? Like, and it's like, no, we got to go up here. And we went up to check out the set. Before I know it, T. Murph is going on stage. And he just went to the front and was like, I'm a comedian too, I'm in town. Anyway, I can jump on stage. And they were like, sure.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Before you know it, then Sashir's jumping on stage. And I'm like, this is amazing. And it was one of the funniest. We never actually went to the strip club.
That's great, though. That makes me happy. That sort of feels like, and that to me feels very Canadian. It's like, oh, you're a comedian, get up on stage. In America, it'd be like, get out,
Yeah, no, it can't happen.
I love hearing that. I really love hearing it.
Oh, yeah.
How many episodes did you guys do?
8 episodes.
Yeah.
8 episodes. We're, if the people love it, we'll get a second season, and we'll dive more into the mind of Keith Knight. He's this brilliant cartoonist who had this journey that a lot of Black Americans go through, trying to find your footing and trying to find your place in the world, where you don't know. You don't necessarily fit the mold of what people would consider Black. And, you have this walk in life that's unlike a lot of people, especially being a cartoonist. He spends a lot of his time alone, drawing and observing the world from this long lens. And, the things that come out of his brain are fascinating. So I think the show will mirror some of that. We have these inanimate objects talking randomly. You know, we got Tony Hale from Veep, Sam Richardson, Eddie Griffin, Cedric the Entertainer, Jack McBrayer, JB Smoove plays a racist marker that I draw with. You know, it's like it's absurd, and it's in the best way possible. And I really hope people gravitate towards it.
And is it? And you said it's essentially autobiographical of Keith.
Yeah, it is. You know, obviously we take some big swings at other things that happened. We take some big swings at things that happened, and we expand on them in a way. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but we definitely go there in certain moments. We take a lot of liberties with things that have happened in his life, and some things are exactly as they happened. So that was fun too, trying to like reading a script and then guessing which you know, did this really happen to you, or was this part of the, and you hear, oh no, this really happened. And it's, you know, just fun to perform in and fun to watch too.
But I understand there is sort of like a Comic-Con mode in a way where it's like, oh, I don't want to spoil anything, and it's like, what can I say without? Yeah, it's like we want to talk about it, but we can't talk too much because the details, and then it's just, you know,
exactly. Yeah. These tiny little there are these moments, you know. I mean, I think the cool thing about the show is that, you know, the trailer tells you just enough. You know, the trailer is cool and it tells you just enough, but you don't know where it's going, you know, and you definitely don't know where it's headed. And when I sit down with Keith and we talk about the possibilities of a second season, where it could go is like insane. Where it could go is absolutely insane. And, you know, hopefully we'll get that opportunity to show the world that, and that, you know, hopefully a show like this will spark conversation. You know, just for me, I'm always, and it's funny that you say that about the podcast, because I'm always just open to learning new stuff. Yep. And how I learn is sometimes by listening to other podcasts. So it'd be fun to learn more in that front. But with a show like this, I want people to just kind of, you know, use it as a tool that they could, like a jumping off point, like water cooler talk for them. Watch the show. It's fun. It's easily digestible. But, you know, we are saying a lot of cool things. We are saying a lot of things that I think people need to hear, and maybe we'll add some sort of perspective on a Black experience that's not spoken about a lot. And I think people will love it. So that's it, man. I just want people to watch and have fun when they watch it.
I really do hope that you consider doing a podcast, and, you know, because it ultimately, I do think the best podcasts are sort of like the self-discovery podcasts. Because whatever you're interested in, whatever you're discovering, other people are going to enjoy that ride, as opposed to, I'm going to come up with a concept. I mean, if a concept popped into your head, great. Yeah. But in general, you know, I know you would have a lot to offer, you know, like,
thank you, man. Thank you.
Like, there's a lot of different things that you want to do, and it might, you know, it might help you kind of discover some of those and figure shit out along the way. And I'm absolutely open to talking about comedy panel shows if that's something you want to talk about. I would love to.
Oh, absolutely, man. If you're on social media, just go ahead and, you know, shoot me or however you want to do it.
Well, as we're wrapping this out, you know, I just want to say it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I feel like I recognize other hyperactive thinkers.
Thank you, man.
And I mean that in the best way, you know. It's like, and as much as I feel like, if there's ever any, you know, advice, I feel like we need to stick together. The hyperactive thinkers need to stick together to help keep each other sane. You know what I mean? Yes,
absolutely. We're not alone. There are more of us out there. We just have to go and find them.
You miss live performing at all? Like, I know you did.
Oh my God, do I miss live performing? I got a chance a few weeks ago, or probably about a month or two ago, I got a chance to go out to Ohio, to Yellow Springs, Ohio, to hang out with Dave Chappelle. And what he's doing out there, man, is insane. Like people are just performing. People are just going on stage and performing and singing, and Erykah Badu and Common and Talib Kweli, and then you've got Michelle Wolf and you got Tiffany Haddish and all these different people, all these Michael Che, all these people going on stage and John Hamm, randomly on stage singing Journey, stuff like that. That was like this. It was this eye-opening thing because we hadn't seen live performances in a while, hadn't stood on a stage in front of a crowd in a long time. It was almost emotional. Well, it was emotional, but you almost teared up when you left, because you were just like, we were so missing that human connection that, especially as performers, I don't do stand-up too much, but improv and sketch and theater and, standing in front of a crowd of people, you miss it. And once the threat of it being gone forever pops up, you can't fathom that world. You can't fathom that world of never being able to address a crowd of people. And then being there to see all these people addressing crowds of people was like, it was almost like we were in hiding somewhere, sharing moonshine during Prohibition. Like,
Right.
We're in this speakeasy somewhere trying to just have fun. It's like we're in that town in Texas, with Beaumont, Texas, where people couldn't dance and Footloose. It's like it's just like a dance party,
that underground rave in the Matrix 2.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
they can't go up to the surface world, but down below the crust of the earth, they're just fucking ripping shit up there.
Zion, hear me. Let's dance.
Is improv is that the thing, or sketch?
I would say sketch. I've done more improv than sketch, but improv gives me so much anxiety. Because you just I don't have a group anymore, so it's whenever I'm doing it, I'm usually guest performing on someone else's group, and the fear of not being able to play with that particular group, like not knowing like how well I'll mesh with them. Always do well. The groups are always fine and they're great, and they usually carry me along beautifully. But that fear of going on that moment right before I go on stage, it's like it's actually beyond the moment of before. It's the day before. Like the day before I got to do it, I'm like panicking. I'm going to go on stage. My dick's going to fall out of my pants. I know it is. Like,
Everyone's going to see my butthole.
Everyone's going to see my butthole, man. Like, everyone's going to see it. I get that fear. With sketch, it's tried out. It's tested. The jokes work. Your entrances and exits. It's just pure fun. And then within the sketch, you can improvise a lot too. Yeah. So I prefer sketch.
Great. Well, yeah. I hope that we get to do those things again. Like, again, we started the conversation sort of talking about like the nebulous future and trying not to think. I try not to think too much about, I don't know when I'm going to get to do stand-up again. I go, well, I'm here today. I'm healthy today. My wife's healthy today. My mom's okay. That's what I got.
Yep. That's good. Yeah, man. Well, one of these days, bro, and I'll see you on stage one of these days somewhere.
I hope so. And if not, at least in a Zoom, trying to figure out what kind of a panel show America needs.
Absolutely. And I already got the idea. I have the idea. I'm not going to tell it now, but we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
I think you sparked something in me, so I think.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Oh, man, so good to see you. I hope you stay safe down there in Texas where you are and healthy. And, I hope, you've traveled in a time of Corona, it sounds like.
I did. I've gone Ohio, Chicago, and now Texas.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine getting on a plane right now.
Dude, it is, I don't want to say it's scary because it's actually not. The way these airlines are cleaning the crap out of their planes now. I mean, they're walking, when you get on, they hand you like disinfectant wipes, and when you sit in your seat, you can smell the disinfectant wipe already. Right. There these aerosol things before you get on the plane that they're disinfecting the plane. If your trip is longer than a certain amount of time, they're like walk through and disinfect the air again.
Oh my gosh.
It's like this whole thing. Like it's almost like now if you get sick on a plane, you walked in there sick already.
Right,
Like
right.
Because you can't, the way they treat them now, it's more so, you have to mind where you're going.
Right.
Once you get off the plane. Because, like, oh, COVID, I get off the plane and then I'll be like Lou Williams from the Clippers and end up at a strip club somewhere. You're like, oh, I was trying to get the wings. I was trying to get the hot wings. I swear to God, they have good wings. It's like, all right, buddy.
Well, it is a strange thing to think that, my wife and I were like, I don't think we're going to go anywhere obviously you can never predict what's going to happen, but it doesn't seem like we're going to go anywhere anytime in the near future.
Yeah, it's and it wasn't necessarily easy either. You book a flight to a seemingly big city, like Chicago, and then your flight's canceled. Not enough people are traveling. My mom, when she left, she was in LA the start of quarantine, and she had to get back to Chicago, so she was with us for a few months in LA, and so she had to go back to Chicago, and she gets on the plane, and there were, I think, 12 people on her flight to Chicago, and it was like a massive 747 or whatever it was, and 12 people.
Yeah. I'm hearing those stories now of like, holy shit, like a friend of mine had to come to the States from England and went back, and she said like, there were 40 people on our plane, including the crew, and everyone was super spread out.
Oh yeah, it's like a little private flight, private jet life. It's fine.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Okay. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Luxury living.
Well, I'm glad your mom's okay, and
you as well, man. Glad the family's okay. Glad everyone's safe.
Thank you, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you soon. And congratulations on the new show, and stay just one day at a time, man. That's all we can do.
Yes, indeed, bro. Yes, indeed, man.
Yes, indeed. Are you playing Nintendo? Are you playing games?
I just realized in this Airbnb there's a PlayStation, and I realized that this morning when I was looking through the drawers in this bedroom. I thought, there's a whole PlayStation and video games in here. What? So now I'm about to do that. I just got the Oculus as well. So I'm just going to – what I love about Oculus is that it's so dumb and it's not even a game. You can pull up maps like Google Maps and just go kind of walking around your old neighborhood.
Oh my God, we're in a Black Mirror episode.
Yes. I was like, oh, this is my old house. This is awesome. This is where I grew up.
That's amazing. That's our version of going outside now. Yeah, my wife today like, oh, this is like a Black Mirror episode. I'm like, sweetheart, we're in like 5 Black Mirror episodes at once.
Yes.
Not just one.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We are in our own dystopian future. All right. Well, take care, Lamorne. I hope to talk to you soon. And when you're back in LA, we'll have a socially distanced hangout.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Take care. Bye.
ID10T scanning complete. Enjoy your burrito.